Okay, so there are a lot of people, they're trying to lose more weight, they're plateaued. I've been telling people the most you can lose per week is 2 pounds of fat. That's if you're healthy. But this experiment that you did, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think on average, all of you lost about what, almost 7 pounds of fat
Yeah.
in 5 days, right?
Yes.
Okay. So to get into this keto adaptation, obviously you're going to have to either lower your carbs, and of course, fasting is lowering your carbs,
Yes.
and um, and then on top of everything else, you're exercising. So if someone were even to think about doing a fast, do you have to work up to it? I mean, you're not going to just start running and not eating right away. I mean, you're going to have to, you said it takes weeks to get into the keto adaptation or fat adaptation. Tell us a little bit about how someone can work on getting themselves into the keto adaptation state. Is it just a matter of low carbs, or do you have to maybe combine fasting at the same time?
Both are very useful to do. The only way you're going to produce ketones, being ketosis, is to burn fat. And ketones are a natural product of fat burning. So in order to fat burn, you have to lower your insulin. In order to lower your insulin, you have to reduce the main fuel that stimulates insulin, namely carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are the prime driver in our diet for insulin production. So cutting down your carbohydrates is very important, and severely restricting your carbohydrates to what we call the ketogenic zone. So your body has then to burn fat. You have to force your body into fat burning. That's around about 30 to 50 grams of carbs a day, which is about a tenth of what most people would naturally eat.
Right.
It's not difficult to do, but you have to concentrate on it, especially if you like sugar or you're a little bit addicted to sugar. It takes a little bit more willpower. Um, don't forget, when your insulin levels drop naturally as a result of not eating carbohydrates, you will actually urinate a little bit more, because your insulin will enable your body to excrete salt or sodium, and with the salt goes the water. So it's important to replace the fluids and just to drink more. Some people say constipation's an issue. Fluids are very, very good for that, and it doesn't last. It only lasts a few days, if at all. And the other thing is, you may need to think about replacing some of your salts, magnesium, sodium, table salt or whatever, because of this salt excretion caused by the lower levels of insulin. And after that, it's pretty straightforward. You go into ketosis within days. Type 1s, we can go into ketosis after the first meal, because we have to inject our insulin, so we don't have to wait for it to reduce in some ways. And fasting is useful because it makes you much more insulin sensitive. So if you're fasting, you become more sensitive to the insulin you've got, so you'll naturally be more able to get into ketosis. And that's it, really. One of the big breakthroughs I had, so when I learned about the ketogenic diet, just completely by accident, thank goodness for the internet. I'm a medical professional. I'd never heard of it in the training materials that we're given. I started doing a half marathon a month. I thought that was good for me, because I'm not really an athlete in many ways. I'm just an enthusiastic jogger. And I thought, well, if I do a half marathon a month as a keto, that'd be a great experiment. So the first two, I actually fueled up with protein, bacon, eggs, or whatever. And I thought, well, you've got to have some energy before you start running. That's what we're always told. You've got to carb up. You've got to have your pasta and your bananas or whatever if you're carbing up. So I thought, well, I'll have that. And then I got involved in the bulletproof coffees, which were a bit of a fad at the time, in the sense of butter and coconut oil in your coffee. And then on the third one, finally, stupid me, I thought, well, why am I actually giving myself energy before I'm running, filling my stomach up, and they're diverting blood flow away from my muscles, if you like, when I'd worked out that with my body fat mass, I had 85,000 calories of fat, and I have a body mass index of 23. Plus I have, so 85,000 calories, I have 17% fat mass. So it worked out about 85,000, I think. So that's our average sort of fat mass. And so I thought, well, why can't I just burn the fat that I've got? Or I take it in, if you see what I mean. So it took a while to get out of the habit of doing physical activity fueling up for physical activity. I thought, well, I've got the fuel. All I'm doing is just burning it at probably, my slow jogging speed twice the rate that I'm burning it when I'm walking. So it wasn't a big deal to think, well, you can fast actually when you're doing physical activity. And of course, that was wonderful from the point of view of type 1 diabetes, because there's none of this complicating worry about injecting insulin when you're having carbs. So that really freed things up. So on top of that, I thought, well, let's just extend the half marathon and try to just sort of nudge the envelope to put beyond doubt this concern that type 1s need insulin, need carbohydrates if they're taking insulin, and put beyond doubt the fact that if you're in nutritional ketosis, it's not a risk for what's called diabetic ketoacidosis, which is a very severe complication of type 1 diabetes. And the two aren't the same thing, but they're often confused by clinicians as nutritional ketosis will lead to diabetic ketoacidosis.
Oh, okay.